talking with Mr. Gil Cates, who's a distinguished director, producer, and he's produced this is his 14th Academy Awards show that's coming up, and he's coming to Tampa this weekend to do a benefit for the Hillel School. So I guess our first question is, how do we get somebody like you to come to Tampa for a benefit? How'd that happen?
It's interesting because the woman who is running the event is the daughter of my oldest friend, who was my pal when we were 5 years old, living in the Bronx. His name is Herb Herzog. Eileen's his daughter, and that's why I'm coming.
Excellent. Well, you're also working on the Academy Awards show already, aren't you? How long does it take to put that together?
Normally it takes about 3 months. I mean, some of the work we do earlier in terms of like the set design and hiring some of the folks who are going to work on the show, but we actually move into the Oscar offices the first week of December, and it's about an 11 or 12 week job once we all get together.
What was your first job in show business? How did you get into the business?
I went to Syracuse University, and when I got out, actually, the very first job I got was as a guide at NBC. You know, the fellow wearing the nice jacket with the things, the epaulets, and taking people around 30 Rockefeller Plaza and showing them how the sound effects equipment worked, stuff like that. My first job actually was a great job.
The Academy Awards show is such a tradition. There's so many things we expect out of it, and yet we also want it to be different each year. What do you do to make it different each year?
Actually, it's interesting, but each year the show by itself turns out to be a little different in the sense that the films are different and the music is different. I've often thought that if you wanted to see what America was like at any given time, you pop in an Academy Award show and you really see what people said to one another, how they dressed, what they listened to, so that each year there are different elements to the show.
What are your favorite parts of the job and your least favorite?
Well, you know, that's such a good question, Bob. It's a difficult question to answer because, in the main, I really enjoy all of it. It is a fun job. It's one of the few remaining live television network shows where everything happens on the day, and the tension really in the show is the fact that because it's live, everybody gets there. The nominees, the presenters. Frequently, they come from all over the world, and they all have to get there at that day. It's not taped, and actually do it. So it's not my least favorite part of the job, but my most tense part of the job is making sure and keeping my fingers crossed that all the planes land on time and people get their dresses on time, and everyone simply comes down to the Kodak Theater on time so we can do the show.
Of the shows you've done so far, what are your most memorable moments? And what are the moments you most like to forget?
I guess one of my most memorable moments is the year that we put an Oscar on the Space Shuttle Columbia. That was actually thrilling. George Lucas had gotten a special award. The award was presented by Steven Spielberg, and we had to sneak this box on the space shuttle. I mean, we didn't sneak it. NASA did, in terms of keeping it as a secret, and it was quite a thrill to see that Oscar floating weightlessly. There were so many moments that filled us with the fear and anxiety. I don't know which one. I mean, I remember once we had Jack Lemmon in Moscow, and we had people all over the world. We had Charlton Heston in Argentina, and we had folks in Tokyo and Australia. And there's Jack Lemmon at like 5 in the morning, Moscow time, and just as he starts to talk, they had forgotten to turn the PA system down. So you heard this terrible, talk back, this terrible echo. But I don't want to dwell on those moments because you'll get me nervous for this year's show.
Can you give us any advance hints about this year's show, what to expect?
It's really too early to tell. I mean, it's interesting. They did two things in the Academy. They made the show earlier in February, and they delayed the nomination announcement. So now there's only about 3.5 weeks between the announcement of the nominations and actually the show going on the air. And it's not until the night of the nominations that we find out the music that's been selected and try to get some of the production numbers done. But we're planning a couple of surprises, and Some of them will work, some of them won't. The best news, of course, is that we have Jon Stewart as the host, and he's very fast on his feet, very facile, very funny, so that I'm looking forward to this year's show being kind of quick and brisk and modern, and let's hope that it turns out that way.
Where are you actually stationed during the broadcast?
I'm in the control room. The control room is actually a mobile truck which is brought down to the Kodak Theater, and it's right outside the stage door, so that by being in the control room I have access to the stage right area where the actors come in, and frequently I'll walk inside to speak to the host, or if there's an actor that's got a problem, I have easy access to them. But most of the time I spend in the control room, and at that time, really, the show belongs to the director and to the people who are running the show. My biggest job, other than assuaging a star's last-minute anxiety, is to determine when someone has talked too long and we play them off. And I know people always find it very inelegant when you start the music and play someone off, but the nominees are so excited that sometimes they get up there, they really forget where they are, and honestly, if they weren't urged off by the music, they might talk for 20 minutes.
Obviously, a big part of the show is the writing, so I've got to ask you about the WGA situation. What's your stance on it, and do you expect it to be settled in time for your show?
I would hope, I would really hope that the WGA strike is settled, certainly at least a couple of weeks before the show. To me, it's unthinkable to predict that it would go on through the middle of February. Obviously there's a possibility that it might, and obviously we have to be prepared for it. But my opinion is overwhelmingly that it will end before then. Actually, my trade is as a director, and I was president of the Directors Guild of America for 5 years, and I'm actually currently the chairman of their negotiating committee. So I really am looking out for the best interest of the directors, and I hope the writers can resolve their dispute. I'm very sympathetic to the writers' plight. They're a sister guild, and I just would urge them to do whatever they can to get back in the room and talk with the producers.
Well, we're certainly excited about you coming this way, and we know you've got a lot to do today and get to work on this show.